Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And today we're going to discuss an idea that has kind of been begun by the federal government, but it's going to impact Oklahomans, especially in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but really communities throughout the state. And it's called opportunity zones.
Yeah, we're going to give our viewers an opportunity to learn about opportunity.
It could bring a lot of outside capital into the state. We'll talk today with an expert. It's all coming up today on The Verdict. We'll be right back. Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and today we deal with something called opportunity zones, which a lot of our audience may not have heard about, but it could have a big impact on our state's future.
Well, I had not really paid any attention to opportunity zones until you said we ought to do a show about opportunity zones, and this is our opportunity.
It's the federal government is allowing some regulations to be altered so that outside capital can be invested in places that need investment. Today we're going to have an expert here and talk about Oklahoma's opportunities with the opportunity zones. It's coming up today on The Verdict.
I knew I wanted to do something big. I knew I wanted to do something that would make an impact. So I joined the service. I'm Rebecca Owens. I served 30 years in the United States Navy, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Warriors are an inspiration. I felt a drive to serve the Navy and to get into law enforcement. I think that goes in spirit with the Chickasaws because they're females, we're fearless. They cherished elders. They cherished children. Protecting those was something that they were going to do and lay their lives down for it. Through the Veterans of Foreign Wars, I assist other veterans with their disability claims. I love the opportunity to help other veterans. I can't trade that feeling for anything. I still want to be on the forefront. I still want to be walking a path that others can follow. And I still want to inspire.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we are really pleased to welcome a partner of mine for many years, Mac Rosser from the Tulsa office of Crow and Dunleavy. Mac and I have been friends for many years and practiced law together. Pleased to have him here because he knows about opportunity zones. Mac did his undergraduate work at Oklahoma State University, did his law work at the University of Oklahoma, has been in the private practice of commercial and real estate law for in excess of 30 years. He has won all kinds of local awards for his civic service. He has had particularly a lot of investment in the Tulsa mental health issues, as well as being a member of Leadership Oklahoma. So, Mac, we're really pleased that you join us today and talk about opportunity zones.
Thank you, Kent. Really excited to be here. Appreciate it.
Let's talk about where this concept began. It's just in the last couple of years.
Sure. It actually started back in 2016. At that time, really driven primarily by a guy named Sean Parker. He's a one of the founders of Napster, and he was one of the early investors in Facebook. And he was eventually edged out of Facebook, and of course Napster kind of disappeared. So he was sitting around with these giant stacks of money. He's a classic tech billionaire. And that's kind of one of the interesting things. It's not really money. In his case, it's stock. You know, that has worth billions of dollars. And he has other friends of his in the same situation. And he began to realize how much money is locked up in that stock, which he and his friends really don't want to sell, because if they do sell, they would have to recognize capital gains because they have very low basis in the stock. So they would have a huge amount of capital gain to recognize. He's also interested in philanthropy and how he could help out around the country. So back in 2016, he started working with some folks in Congress, and they came up with this general idea of what's called opportunity zones. It was actually, I passed in a bill, but it never became law until 2017. So it started out in the Obama administration and became law in 2017 under the Trump administration as part of the larger Tax Cuts Act that was passed. And it's not as well known, certainly, as the tax cuts, the other provisions in that act, but it provides a very, very significant opportunity for tax benefits for people who are holding stock or real estate, other types of property where they have these capital gains that have built up, but they're not yet realized because they haven't sold their stock. In fact, I think Sean Parker said there's $6 trillion of unrealized capital gains that U.S. taxpayers have just in stocks and bonds alone. So the plan was, let's come up with some way that we can provide some tax benefits for people to perhaps sell those assets and invest the proceeds in certain economically distressed areas. That's the overall concept behind what they wanted to do.
And so how did they choose these economically distressed areas?
Well, it's kind of an interesting process. It's throughout the entire United States. Essentially what happened was you start out with every census tract in the country that's below a certain poverty level or below a certain low income level. Then what happens at that point is the governor of each state takes that list and chooses 25% of those census tracts to be actually officially designated as opportunity zones. And that has happened, that process is complete. So opportunity zones around the country have been designated by each governor. So now we know where they are. So once that is done, then that tells you where you can make an investment that will allow you to get these significant tax benefits from your capital gains.
And the idea being that it takes dollars that might have been off the table and puts them into investments in areas that just haven't had a whole lot of new investment. So it's an access to capital issue.
That's right. It provides access to capital, non-governmental capital. These are not grants. They're not tax credits. They're not even government loans. It's private individuals and corporations, funds going into these distressed areas. The plan is we need to get money in there. They've been ignored. They've been overlooked because people don't think they'll be able to do anything in there. And if we give enough benefits, we think that we will, and that the money will flow into those zones for investment in businesses and in real estate, in each of those two.
And it's not just the real estate, it's the business that takes place in that area. So
it's both.
Yeah, if that business is successful, there's a real tax advantage to the people that invested.
That's right. For both, a lot of tax credits or government programs are limited, say, to real estate or certain assets. This is wide open, as long as the business is located, and the definition of that is set out in the regs, but as long as the business is located within the opportunity zone or the real estate is located within the opportunity zone, then you can make the investment and you get tax benefits, and they are significant because there are really two parts of your tax benefit. Let's say you've sold your stock or your real estate or whatever and you have your proceeds. Then if you want to do this type of investment, you've got 180 days to invest in the Opportunity Fund, which are funds put together to make these investments. And that money then goes into the zones. But what you as an investor get are really two benefits, three if you want to count them that way. One is you can defer your tax on that capital gain for up to, well, until 2027. So you can, tax paid next year or 10 years from now is certainly better than paying tax now. If you hold that investment in the fund for a certain number of years, if you hold it for 5 years, you get a 10% reduction in tax. This is just a reduction. If you hold it for 7 years, you get a 15% reduction in your capital gains. That's just taxes you don't have to pay. Those are not deferred, those are eliminated. In addition, your investment in the fund, to the extent it gains in value during the term, if you hold that investment for 10 years, then any appreciation that your investment has in the fund is also tax-free.
So when the opportunity zones were designated, I guess Governor Fallon designated them in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Does that mean that kind of like the run, when we started, that okay, now it's all right to come in and do it? Has that event occurred for investment in opportunity zones in Oklahoma?
Certainly, people are looking at them. One of the things that's prevented just immediate investment is the investment has to be made through a qualified opportunity fund. In other words, you couldn't just sell your stock to go down and buy a building within an opportunity zone and get these tax benefits.
Is there some agency that qualifies a fund?
It's private funds, private investment funds, hedge funds, private equity, large crowdfunding sources are nationally, they're putting together big programs. But it doesn't have to be big, it can be smaller, but the fund itself takes the investor money and goes and invests it in the opportunity zones, and that's where the money comes from. So it takes a while, because this is so recent and the IRS just very recently issued regulations that deal with this. It's just starting to ramp up. But in a sense, yeah, people are looking at maps and saying, I might like to put some money in there, and I look around, maybe I can find some other people who are interested in doing that. So it's certainly, I think, generating a lot of interest in those areas. But you still have to have the fund. That money has to come from a sale of an existing capital asset. So it's going to take a while for those to ramp up. But I read about one crowdfunding source that's putting together a $500 million fund nationally. Mm-hmm. Now those folks tend to look at the larger markets, the coasts, the larger urban markets. But there's a lot of opportunities. And one of the advantages of using a fund rather than just the individual investments is that they have a large pot of money, and they can go all around the state to these different locations, pick and choose, find what they want, and invest the money in those. So it's definitely generating interest in the areas that have been designated as opportunity zones.
And there are areas in the metro, Oklahoma City and Tulsa both have opportunity zones.
That's
fairly
right.
Close to downtown.
Oh yeah, in Oklahoma City, it's a lot in the downtown area, from the Core to Shore area up to near north downtown. In Tulsa, there's the entire interdispersal loop area, as well as a good chunk of the Pearl District, kind of on the near east side. And especially in Tulsa, one of the areas that's generating a lot of interest is essentially the entire area around the Tulsa airport is included. There are a lot of folks that have land out there, and there's been a lot of discussion of investment in the airport area. I think that will definitely be triggered by this, because that's an area that folks have kind of been looking at anyway. But if you come up with investor funds that are looking to specific areas, that's certainly one I think they could focus on.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to be the ultimate impact of opportunity zones? When you scratch your head and say, this sounds too good to be true in some regard, what's this all going to play out?
Well, I can tell you, if I were a tech billionaire and I wanted to do something good. Or, you could make it a smaller scale. Let's say you're a family-owned bank in Oklahoma, and your family's owned this bank since statehood. So it's done very well, it's branched out, but the stock in that bank has a very low basis. Your cost is almost zero. You may have inherited it or owned it through a family connection, and you sell that stock. If you, and it's happening a lot because smaller banks are being gobbled up by the bigger banks around the state. You sell that stock, you could have to pay a hefty chunk of capital gains tax. The rate is almost 20% in essence right now. But if you can find a good investment that is an investment within these opportunity zones, then you roll your money over into that, and you're willing to wait, 5, 7, 10 years before you get it. Man, why not? You don't just want to throw your money down the drain. You want to look for good investments, because last thing you want to do is roll it into something that's going to cause you to lose your entire investment. So the smart investors are not going to just say, okay, I'll do whatever, just take it.
I think, pardon me, Mac, I think we need to get to a break.
Okay, let's get to a break.
Absolutely.
We'll be talking more about opportunity zones when we return.
Okay.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative, and this year, our competition teams rank number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of the verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, and our guest, Malcom Rosser, who's been talking to us about opportunity zones. One way that someone explained it to me is opportunity zones don't make a bad deal a good deal, but it can make a good deal a really good deal.
That's exactly right. The investment still needs to be a good deal. It really needs to be something you would be willing to put your money into, whether or not you had the tax benefits.
Because that's what you're going to do.
Because you are making an investment.
Yeah.
It still has to work for you. The tax benefits are great, but the investment still has to work.
Well, give us some examples, Amazon or others that might be looking at this.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation with Amazon because, it's been a long time now looking for their second headquarters, what they call HQ2, and just very recently they finally made their decision. They're actually going to split that up between New York, the New York area, and Washington, D.C. area. Well, the site that they have chosen in New York City, in Queens, just happens to be an opportunity zone. And they say, well, we didn't know anything about
Coincidental,
that.
of course.
just by the way. Now, it won't help Amazon as such. They're not going to be putting capital gains proceeds in there, I don't think, but maybe they could. It's possible. But what it does is for all of the ancillary things that are going to be happening around there, all the development, office, retail, all the housing. I mean, that is one that people and investors will be flocking to because of what you said, Mick. It would be a good investment no matter what. But if you can go there and get tax benefits on top of it, then it's great. Now, the detractors would say, well, you know, the goal of this is to bring money into areas that are distressed that wouldn't otherwise get investment. And certainly that's not the case there. The money is going to be flowing into that area.
But
no matter
are the
what.
detractors right that that is the goal of the?
That is the goal, and that's the way it was set up. That's why the opportunity zones require that the average income be below a certain level, and that is certainly the case. But there will always be these unusual situations like that you run into. And you know, some folks say, well, all it's going to do is run the people who are there out. Gentrification is a term that's thrown around a lot. So that's possible. That's possible with any redevelopment of any type. Sure.
Well, let's talk about the areas in Oklahoma that you've kind of studied the map, and what are some of the areas around the state that have been designated as an opportunity zone?
Well, they vary, although for the most part, at least in the rural areas, they're pretty much concentrated toward the eastern half of the state, but not exclusively. Nothing in the Panhandle. A fair number in the Oklahoma City and Tulsa urban areas, and you know there are maps available online. The Oklahoma Department of Commerce has a very detailed map that you can go to, and you can blow it up and look in great detail at the particular area. Just for example, almost all of McIntosh County in the southeast part of the state is included. So you know you just have to look at that map, and if you see an area that's worthwhile, then you know definitely pursue it.
I would think economic development groups are just really pushing this. You know, maybe putting out their own brochure as they try to create commerce in their specific area.
Oh, it's a great benefit to be able to offer. You know, it's not something the whole state has. It's something that your area has that you can differentiate you from a lot of the rest of the state. You know, especially if you're in or close to the urban areas, that you know you can point to and say, well, we're close. You know, we're not 400 miles away, but I can't say it. Still got to be a good investment. You have to make it work.
Well, you know, working for a law firm, are clients calling? Are businesses reaching out saying, hey, is this something we should be looking at?
There are certainly folks who are putting together funds here locally. I think for a lot of the taxpayers, those types of clients, they haven't even really realized the true impact of it. I mean, most folks, especially corporations, got a tax break in the 2017 tax law, so they're kind of focused on that. But I think once they start realizing, A, that they can sell these assets and do some reinvestment, and B, that there are funds out there that they can go to, I think that will start to happen. But the funds have to be in place, set up and running and in compliance with the IRS regulations before you can put your money into them.
Is there a role for nonprofits to play in all of this?
Oh, I think so, especially with affordable housing. There's I do a lot of that kind of work. There are a lot of federal programs and some state programs, tax credits, other things like that. But to the extent that you could get private investment and layer that on top of the federal programs, it's great. And
Ken, one of the things that I noticed about is generally when there's some sort of subsidy or geographic subsidy for development, there's a lot of red tape involved. Might be local red tape, might be at the federal level, might be at the state level. There's not really much red tape with this, and that's what's kind of eye-opening. It's almost self-designated in a lot of
There's no supervisory authority over it.
You don't qualify really beforehand.
It's not like tax credits where you have to apply, be approved, get an allocation, do reporting. I mean, the funds are required to hold 90% of their assets in these businesses and real estate in the opportunity zones. So in essence, they're kind of the gatekeepers or the policemen, if you will, but it's pretty much up to them. The paperwork is almost nil from the investor standpoint.
Well, the regulation, I think the lack of regulation would be an attractive feature that would bring people in that might not otherwise want to participate.
And the developers, they just call up a fund and say, do you guys have some money you'd like to put in? That's the extent of it from the developer standpoint. So very simple.
Wow,
We
almost
just
too
have
good to
about
be true.
30 seconds.
Okay. Well, it's a great thing I think people are going to learn more about. Thanks for coming on the show and
Certainly.
explaining more about it.
My pleasure.
They are estimating it could be trillions of dollars out
Absolutely.
there that's going to find its way, and certainly there are a lot of places in Oklahoma that could benefit that outside capital.
I think it's going to happen.
All right.
I do.
Thanks, Mac.
You're welcome.
Kit and I'll have a final word after this.
It used to be okay in hospitals. It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children coming from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids got to know they can trust you. And that's what we've tried to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're wrapping up a show on opportunity zones. Mac used the term, it almost sounds too good to be true in some regards, and it really could mean billions of dollars get invested in parts of our communities that really haven't had a whole lot of investment.
Well, yes, that kind of qualification is really noteworthy, and it shows great humanitarian interest. And we'll see if it works. We hope so.
We'll see if it works. That's right. IRS has sent down the regulations, and now we'll just kind of see how it plays out. We have some internet information. You can get more information about Malcom and his work at Crow Dunlevy at crowdunlevy.com. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. You can tell us about an idea you have for a show or a guest you'd like to see us interview. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks for joining us. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.